Concord is dead. Beautiful looking game right there, but Sony has decided to pull it back in. They haven't killed it outright. They're giving refunds to everybody who bought it. It's only been out for 8 days, 9 days. I think 11, something like 2 weeks, give or take. Depends when you got it. But they says, hey, we're going to assess. We're going to take into account some of the comments we've been hearing, and we're going to see if this is actually something that we can save, basically. So the patient is on the operating table. We'll see what happens. I love that Sony's saying this. Rainbow Six Siege, Final Fantasy XIV, even Fortnite, the mighty Fortnite, all 3 of these games launched to negative responses from consumers, not a lot of financial success, but the companies stuck with them. They pulled them in, they made changes, and now they're the biggest games, or some of the biggest games of the games as a service industry. Multiverse has tried to do this. Doesn't seem like it's working for those guys. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee. But it's nice to see Sony coming around to going, this is kind of what it takes to do business in this sector of the industry. Is, it's not about getting it right necessarily the first time. It's about making sure you have enough good bones on it, which this does. It's a very well-made game. It's a very pretty game, as you can see here in terms of just the execution of it. And maybe there's something there that we can do some success with. And originally I thought they were going to pull it in and almost immediately flip it to free to play, because I assume at this point all of these games are made with that in mind. Where at some point we know we're going to go free to play. The player base is going to die. We don't want to pull it back in for 6 months like we did with Drawn to Death when we switched from free to play. We actually went the opposite direction to paid game. And so they're building that as they go. So Fair Play coming next for Sony, I assume, has an either or. But I could be wrong, but that's what I'm assuming. Point being is I assume that's what they were going to do. And in 2 weeks, suddenly we have this free to play. It's back in the market. And that's why they gave refunds, because you'd have a class action lawsuit or just people being fucking PR nightmare pissed if it's like, I just spent $40 on this and 2 weeks later you went free to play, go fuck yourselves, right? So that's what I thought at first. But then when I was thinking more about it, this is a game that at least the press was, we don't have battle passes. Your job is not to keep coming back every day and playing Concord. We want it to be a game that you play because you want to, not because you're grinding for the latest skin or whatever. It's a noble intention. That's not really how service games work anymore. If you're making a board game or a card game, analog, sure. You get your value out of buying a new deck of Uno cards. You may only play it 10 times a year, but you get what you need, you move on with your life. It doesn't work that way with these games. There's too much competition, and there's too much requirement of investment on the part of the games that are actually already working. So they're going to have to build a battle pass, assuming they go that route. If they want to keep the game as is, they're going to have to go, we need some hooks to keep people playing outside of just simply going, is it a fun game or not? Your mileage will vary depending on if it's a fun game or not, depending on who you ask. I think it plays great. I think it controls great. The shooting feels good. I didn't stick with it. I went over to Marvel Rivals and was very, very happy. Can't wait for that game to come out in a couple of months. But there are people who will tell you it's a wonderful game, wonderful hero shooter. It's clearly a well-made game. I'm glad Sony's sticking to their guns a little bit and saying, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if they are not just going to flip a switch, because they can't, right? Because there is no battle pass, what are they going to do if they pull it in? Well, to me, there's 3 things you can do that would matter the most. Obviously, free to play makes the most sense. Beyond that, I think they need to get rid of... I played the beta. There were a couple of modes. Team Deathmatch is what everyone played. I get the fact that there is a much more nuanced kind of mode in there where if everybody's working perfectly as a team and it's all firing on all cylinders and... Okay, but that's asking a lot right now for the audience. It's just for whatever reason, people were playing deathmatch. That was fun. When you jumped over to the other match, it was just kind of like designer porn. It's like the designer's sitting there going, look how all these characters interact and the locking parts and all. And I get it. As a fellow or as a one-time designer, I get it. It's impressive. But I don't know what the magic is that makes people want to learn that, right? And play that way, like a MOBA game or something where, holy shit, that becomes what people are willing to climb that hill to learn. But in the case of this mode, I think they should get rid of that mode or at least put it on ice for a little bit. Maybe make a couple of new modes, but they're very meat and potato modes. I also think they need to do some work with the level design. The levels look great, but they're pretty generic and dull. Hopefully they will do all of that. Here's the other thing I'll say, though. There is a narrative going around that, all these kind of go woke, go broke. This is not a game that failed because it went woke. This is not a game that failed because the robot has pronouns. You may or may not care or like that or not like that. That is not why that's not this. This is not the Dustborn game that just came out. This isn't even Life is Strange. This is a fucking sci-fi space shooter that nobody gives a shit about the fact that there are pronouns in regards to I'm not going to play it because of that. There's just not enough of those people to matter when it comes to things like this. It's not that they went woke and went broke. It's the fact the better saying is why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Fundamentally, I'm not saying this game would have had staying power, but launching it with $40 was a big mistake. So I think that's going to help a lot. But I do think they should do some work with the characters. I got, not everybody agrees with me. This wasn't even my idea, but I love the idea. It was pitched to me on the show. They should turn it into a PlayStation hero shooter. And I agree at this point. I don't know if they have the money, time, interest in re-rigging all the characters, but you could do models of, and I don't mean just as every now and then there's a PlayStation character that appears in Concord. Fuck all the Concord branding. Fuck the IP. It is the PlayStation hero shooter. You've got a Spyro, a Kratos, a Nathan Drake, an Ellie, an Astrobot. It's basically Marvel Rivals, but it's PlayStation Rivals. If it were me, I would do that. I think things need gimmicks. Things need something. Now, again, it doesn't mean it's going to work. Look at Warner Brothers. Look at Multiverses. But this is a genuinely good game. It could be better. I think they know how to make it better in terms of things we talked about, level design modes and whatnot. But I think the characters, not because they're woke, just because they're really not compelling. They're very generic and dull. And the one thing I will say about the woke part, somebody on my show earlier this morning said they are, I'm paraphrasing, and I thought this was better put than I've ever seen it. Because I don't think most people have a problem with whatever, Jews, Muslims, black people, LGBT people. I don't think people are fundamentally, there are some assholes out there, of course, and they're very vocal on the internet, but I don't think most people just want to enjoy their lives and have no problem with diversity. I think, though, the way this guy phrased it was he said the characters in this game are aggressively against the male gaze. And that comes across brilliantly. I don't demand any or every character in a video game be sexy time, but it seems so now. It's got that kind of, we know you want these characters to be attractive and sort of play into heteronormative stereotypes. That's not good for you. We're going to give you your vegetables instead of your dessert. I do agree. Again, it's not about the characters being woke or not. It's not about pronouns. It's about, for whatever reason, this game does feel preachy, where other games just are like, there may not be sexy time characters, but, I don't play Marvel and think they're sexy characters, but it doesn't feel like, I know you'd like this character to be hot. Give us a hot, sexy robot, or even just a form-fitting robot, or whatever. It feels aggressively opposed to that. I do think they should change that because it's annoying. It's obnoxious and nobody likes it. But I don't think that's what caused this game to fail at all. That wasn't their Achilles heel. Their main Achilles heel was $40. Maybe they got blindsided by the success of Helldivers at $40 and said, hey, this is working. I get it. I thought Helldivers 2 was going to be a big flop because of the $40 price point. Turns out that's probably the anomaly, and this is the norm. And I don't know what it means for fair play at this point, but you best believe they're sitting around considering it and wondering about it. So the takeaway for me is good for Sony if what they're saying is true. They're not going to kill it outright. They're going to pull it in, put it back in the garage, do some work on it, see if they can save the patient, and they could end up with their own Rainbow Six. I think that would be great. The company certainly needs it. The team is clearly talented enough to do it, and it's nice to see them not just going, oh, failure, kill them all, it's done, let's move on. But actually learn that, hey, this is how the sausage gets made. It's messy, there's failures, and that can oftentimes lead to big success, especially with a team this talented. All right, that's what I think. I'm very curious to watch how this game evolves. Hopefully it actually will in the future. In the meantime, be well, be safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.